Welcome everyone to another episode of Journeys to Inspire, Pathways to Leadership. The purpose of this platform is to, I suppose, promote the next generation. I think is one of the key areas to it, right? There's people at the helm of certain leadership roles in certain industries at the moment, but they're going to retire at some point, right? So the next generation, having a little bit of exposure and a feature on them, and how they get into this industry and how they see the industry and how they're going to progress their careers in this industry, assuming they will stay in it all the way through, then yeah, that's the purpose of it. My name's Lee Thomas. I'm the founder and regional director of the Alliances in South Africa, and I'm joined today by Ross. And I'll pass it over to you, Ross, to introduce yourself for those that are not familiar, right?
Thank you very much, Lee, and hi everyone. My name's Ross. I'm currently a cybersecurity analyst, and I've got about 3 years of experience so far. I guess to explain myself, I love all things tech, but at the same time, I do like other stuff as well. So I do a lot of sports. I play a lot of games, as a lot of tech enthusiasts do, and I guess I watch series and stuff as well, which is all fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
Amazing. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. So you're early in your career, right? 3 years experience. I'd argue I've got more experience than you, but don't hold me to that. Don't ask me anything technical. How have you got to this point, mate? What route have you taken?
Yeah, sure. So I think early on, as I said, I played a lot of games, and I used to be a part of a few servers on games, and I think one crucial thing that happened was I was part of this cyber attack, and at that point I didn't really know what was going on, but a bunch of us basically gave our credentials away, and I think I was about 16 at this point. And it was really pivotal for me because when this actually happened, I'd literally never heard of cybersecurity before, but of course I was interested in tech and all those things. So yeah, that had happened, and I figured out what it was, and I started to really get into cybersecurity. And whilst I did computer science, I kind of just asked my teacher if he knew what it was, and I started searching up online. By the time I got to my A-levels, I kind of knew I wanted to look into cybersecurity a bit more, and I did my A-levels, got my results, and I went straight to Bournemouth University to study cybersecurity management. And yeah, after that, I guess I had a placement with British Heart Foundation.
Oh, wow.
Which was really, really good. That was probably the funnest experience I've had because they were really nice people, but at the same time, I got to learn about cybersecurity. And it was my first ever role to do with that. And it was really good to be able to put that practice from university into an actual real life application. So yeah, that was really good. And then just from there, I went back to university, finished off my degree, and now I'm working in the same job at HBK.
Amazing. I want to delve into that a little bit, right? Because you said something there which a lot of people struggle to do, which is transferring the theory of an industry and practically applying it. What do you think they did at Bournemouth Uni? It sounds like you had a bit of a practical placement there, which I think really does help. But outside of that, is there anything in particular that the course did, modules within the course, that helped you to apply that theory? Is there a way if they'd unpack the information or the theory that you were learning, or how does that work at Bournemouth?
Yeah, really good question. So in my first year, we had quite a breadth of information to go through. We were doing things from like software engineering to looking at databases. So basically all parts of technology, kind of like you would expect to see in a computer science course. So I think one really important thing about cybersecurity is that you do need to kind of know a little bit about everything. So the fact that they enabled us to do that in our first year was really important. And then I specifically remember there was this one module, which was the business module. So it was actually having to do presentations. We had a company come in, Kingfisher, and we had to deliver almost this requirements that they gave us. And yeah, it was really difficult. But I really remember that being the first time I ever had to do something practical, because before it
Mm.
was all tests and exams and reading books. But at that point, I was really scared because there was like never a chance to do that before. So we got
Mm.
stuck into that, and that was really fun. And then moving on, just using that same information, but just specifically in cybersecurity, we ended up doing more of the same type of presentations. And that
Mm.
really just helped me get into the flow of things. And yeah, that's essentially how uni helped me to get into stuff there.
No, that's awesome because it's been in the media, hasn't it, in terms of people coming out to university and not being able to apply themselves into vocations and jobs. Because it's the theory that they've learned, and it's good to hear there's a blend. There's a common theme of exposure, and the different varieties of things that you're able to get involved in helps you to apply yourself to cybersecurity. A lot of next gen CISOs that I've spoken to, or future CISOs that I've spoken to, right? They've highlighted that the opportunity to gather and gain as much exposure across the business and different areas of technology and information technology as a whole has helped them apply the cybersecurity strategies that an organization might have, and you've sort of played on that as well. So it's interesting that at the young age, or at the early stages of your career, you're able to have that exposure, and then I suppose find your sweet spot. Are you finding that yourself? Is there particular areas of the industry that you're flourishing in, or finding a little bit more enjoyment, if you can call it enjoyment, out of a job, right?
Yeah, definitely. But it's taken me a really long time to get to that point, because obviously I say a long time. I haven't been in the industry for that long, but it feels as if it's been ages, because I started off as an analyst doing loads of different stuff. But as you get more responsibility, dealing with a lot of the risk management stuff, so the GRC type side of stuff, I've been able to work on certain contracts here and there, and really seeing what it is as a business that we have compared to what other companies have, and learning essentially all about our organization. And you really do have to know a lot of different things, and you have to talk with different teams, like the product team, and really get stuck in on that side. I've really been enjoying that.
What steps are you taking now for your career development, and is there anything that's particularly working for you, whether it's a process or strategy that you're putting in place, right? Because whether you know it or not, the people we know that's part of the alliances that work with you speak very highly of you, and I've got some huge hopes for you, right, in terms of how big this could be for you as an individual in terms of industry impact. Is there what are you doing to, I suppose, help yourself standing out amongst the crowd, right? Because it's quite a few working in this industry.
Yeah, it's a really great question. So with career development, something that I take quite seriously, in terms of, I think in cybersecurity, it's such an evolving and dynamic nature. So
Mm.
I feel as if I'm not keeping up with day-to-day things that are occurring, I'm almost getting left behind. And I always have that looming thought in my head. So what I tend to do most of the time, I always start with podcasts. So usually 2 or 3 times a week, I'll listen to certain podcasts. So I've got like some fun ones in there, like Darknet Diaries, but I also listen to like the Hacker Mind. And recently I started listening to one called like the Cyber Queens podcast, because it's just
Right.
also really cool to like listen to different perspectives on things. And they're
Yeah.
American, I think, as well. And they've got some really interesting things about NIST in there that they talked about, but also how they came in from having like no experience and working in a different field, and then applying that with all the soft skills that they had, to actually coming into an organization and making a change, and then
Mm.
eventually getting into that C-level position. So I
Mm-hmm.
found that really interesting, and loads of little different gems that they give, I think, helps me as well. And then if I go into more about the learning path, I do a lot of Try Hack Me. I started that this year, so
Mm-hmm.
that's been really fun. Just doing like loads of different practical labs. It's been very
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable. And then certifications is a big one as well. So I recently did a certification through CompTIA, and
Hmm.
previously I'd already done my Security Plus. So just I think stacking those up and evolving always helps as well, because there's a lot of information in those certifications, but I
Mm.
really do think they're helpful because I was able to apply them straight away in my job. But yeah, I would say those are the main three big things I do. So podcasts, certifications, and then also like the try hack me type stuff.
Mm. Nice. There's a good variety and a good mix there, and I think, I mean, for those that have developed careers in the industry, right, at a little bit more than 3 years in, they there's a conversation and a debate around certifications about whether they prove competency, give competency, and it's a different conversation. But it's good to hear that what you've been able to do from achieving those certifications, and congratulations. I know it's not just given to you, right? It's not easy. It's good to see that you're actually being able to apply them into the role, which is fab. Um, Saying that, then, so we got some of the positives there. Is there anything that you possibly invested your time in that, in hindsight, you wouldn't have when it comes to your career development in the industry? I think it's good to sort of for others to potentially leverage the lessons that you'd have. Right, there's no need to repeat a mistake that someone else has made. Is there anything that you would correct in hindsight?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question because I actually have like a list of stuff which I regret doing because
Mm.
I don't think that it provided any benefit to me, and instead it just gave me more doubt in myself.
Right.
And specifically that was going onto YouTube and typing in is cybersecurity for me? Is it worth it? Can like how much money can I make? Questions which essentially don't actually help you with what you want to do.
Yeah.
Um, what I realize is that everyone has different opinions about cybersecurity, and I'm sure they have different opinions about every job.
Mm.
And it's really about how you feel about it. So you could listen to what anyone says, but that's not going to be the same for you. And
Mm.
everyone has different paths and journeys. And when I remember listening to those people, obviously there are some valid things that you can take away, but because there's so much negative in the comments, I read so much about what people are saying.
Mm.
I think it kind of just gave me more like, can I really do this? Rather than let me not look at that and let me just get stuck in with what I'm doing. Do more certifications, do more self learning instead of looking at other people's opinions, because you don't actually learn anything from just
Mm.
listening to all these opinions. So yeah, I that would be what I regret wasting time on, basically.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's particularly in information security, cyber security, right? It's an industry which is led by varying levels of truth or varying forms of truth, right? And they are very much opinion led, with regards to how people apply themselves to the industry. And I think as this industry matures, and that the CISO role, if that's the mantle for you or part of the stepping stone into your career development as the years go by, the CISO role is still a very young role within any organization, if it exists at all, right? The first CISO role was about 20, I think off the top of my head, 28, 29 years old. So stand corrected for those who know the fact on that. But the the pathway to that role, the impact of that role within organizations still varies from industry to industry and organization to organization. And it's wild, and you can easily find yourself going down a rabbit hole of negativity around the industry, right? Of what's going on. But I suppose the opinions should help with managing expectations. So the overcoming of challenges should be a lot easier rather than getting negged out potentially from that sort of information. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's good lesson, right? Um, Uncomfortable situations, right? In terms of whether it be knowledge level, whether it be um, the structure of the organization, the challenges of being in corporate. Like, I'm not a corporate executive. You've probably established this by now. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not, right? But is there an element of having to find yourself feeling comfortable in uncomfortable environments as you navigate these corridors and develop your career in this industry? And how do you sort of manage that if that is the case?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, and this is purely based off my own thinking.
Yeah.
So even though people might not be thinking this is what I felt in my head, right? When I first walked through the door to do cybersecurity, I
Mm.
feel like people have this perception of you because you've got a degree, because you're coming in with a fresh mindset, you're going to be offering all these really cool, crazy, innovative ideas, and you're going to have this new knowledge which you can apply to the business to help drive whatever is going on, and you're going to
Mm.
be really useful at doing that. And I think a lot of people would like tell me that, and I almost felt like I had to come and deliver that.
Mm.
And obviously, whilst it's true that you do learn things in university and you do have good theoretical knowledge, you almost get bogged down in the fact that you don't know as much as everyone else about business. So you don't know all the acronyms that everyone's talking about. You almost come in and you essentially feel like you know nothing. This is how I felt anyway. I
Mm.
felt like I didn't know anything. I was just like, everyone's saying all these words I've never heard of before.
Mm.
And I'm basically just trying every time I go into meeting to like write the words down and keep up. So what that eventually led to was probably, yeah, feeling a bit of like having an imposter syndrome because
Mm.
everyone seems like they're super technical and know what they're talking about in meetings, saying like 3-letter acronyms all the time, and you're just there asking what does that mean.
Yeah.
That can be the hardest for me. It is the hardest part of actually getting used to being in an organization.
Yeah.
After you get past that, I mean, I'm still learning about acronyms now, to be fair, but after you get past the majority of that, you feel better, but there's always people that know more than you.
Mm.
Um, but I think the really important part about the imposter syndrome is that you can't really control what you know and what you don't know at the time. All it is that once you figure out there's something you don't know, you try your best to go and learn that thing. So
Mm.
that's what I do, and that helps me. But I'm just gonna give you one specific example.
Mm.
A time that I felt comfortable being uncomfortable is when I go and do some presentations. So recently, I was doing a presentation to senior members of the board
Mm.
for like information security, and I was really worried going in to talk because it's just people that you just don't expect to be speaking to, and
Mm.
you know, cybersecurity, I just feel like there's so many technical jargon things that you could say. It's so easy for it to get go wrong, and there's figures, numbers. So yeah, I went into that feeling very uncomfortable, but at the
Mm.
same time, I knew I was doing the right thing because going to do that presentation enabled me to understand what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong, and now I can do that next time and I can
Mm.
progress. So I think in cybersecurity, in any business that you're in, it's really important to feel uncomfortable because you won't really grow if you're feeling comfortable. It's better
Mm.
to feel uncomfortable, learn, and then eventually you'll get comfortable, and then there'll be the next thing where you feel uncomfortable again. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great example, right? And I think it gets overlooked. And I think what you've experienced is the same as what a senior would experience, right? That's the reality. That's the hierarchical structure of any organization, which causes those feelings to come about, right? And I think I think it's good that you've highlighted that. I think the appetite to keep pushing, keep learning is a real good trait to have that some don't and some really struggle with that. And I think it's important that those who do struggle with it understand that everybody can feel the same way, and everybody can overcome it, right? I think that's a critical part of it, right? So this is all about paying it forward, right? In terms of journeys to inspire, it's all about passing the ladder down, and improving the industry, progressing the industry, creating a higher standard across the board. And essentially, the Alliances is all about having a community or being part of a community that you can benchmark against and engage with and strengthen relationships, with whoever that comes about with it, right? In terms of you up until this point, are you finding ways to help others to get into the industry? Are you mentoring yourself, right? I appreciate that you're only 3 years in, right? But are you coaching people into this industry? Are you offering advice to people that are reaching out? Are people reaching out? Is that not the case? Are you open to that? What sort of role do you see yourself in this industry? This industry is well known for having skill shortage, right? So that's why I asked the question. So yeah, what are you up to in terms of that?
So yeah, this is a great question. I would say that I'm really into helping people get into cybersecurity because it's like you said, there's such a shortage of people in this role. And I think the purpose is really good as well because cybersecurity is about protecting people. And with all the new technology that's coming out, people getting the new iPhone 15 the other day, my brother's only 14 and he's getting all this technology, but he doesn't know the repercussions of things that could happen online, social media, stuff like that. And so I have conversations with him. But what I have done specifically, so first of all, I've talked at some schools about cybersecurity. Essentially, I've talked about protection online, but I've also done a school career day as well. Just
Nice.
talking about cybersecurity as an actual profession and how you can get into that. And then at the same time, I've created a social media on Instagram where sometimes I post about specific attacks. I've talked about imposter syndrome like I have today. Some of the experiences that I have, I've basically put on there.
Nice.
And I've really been enjoying doing that. And then I've also done so I've done calls online on LinkedIn. I've had a few people reach out, and I don't know if that's because of my Instagram or because of the schools thing that I've done. But I've had some people reach out, and what I've done one-to-one calls with them, essentially just telling them whatever questions they had. So someone is a university student in his second year, and he was asking, how did I get into it? What placement did I do? How was it? Should I go for Security Plus now or later? Just answering a few of those questions. And then I had another person who is a lot younger in secondary school, and they already had LinkedIn, which I found was crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And they were asking, yeah, how do I get into cybersecurity? So I think altogether I probably had about 7 or 8 calls. But I haven't put myself out there. But I really enjoy doing it, and I still keep in touch with those people today. So yeah, to answer your question, I really like to give back if I can, and I want to continue doing that.
No, fair play, mate. This is good. 'Cause I think, the reality is there's only so many hours in the day, and there's a lot to do, right, in terms of the roles and responsibilities for anyone in this industry. So yeah, I applaud you for getting involved in so much stuff, genuinely, because some people don't, and some people fear as well, thinking, does my opinion even matter? It doesn't matter. What we've produced with this and what we've proved with this is the people who come out of the woodwork that sort of go, that message on that podcast or vodcast or what you've highlighted here has really helped me, because people find affinity with real life stories and real life journeys, right? That's what social media has proved, doesn't it? As people want to aspire to certain things, so I think that allowing, with privacy in mind, let's go back to the industry, but with privacy in mind, allowing people to have that transparency and that visibility into what it's actually like, sort of cuts out a lot of the noise a little bit, right? And I think having someone who you can confide in and, bounce off and, have that open door policy with really, really helps, which brings me on to the next section nicely in terms of thank yous, right? This industry is, I'm probably not siloed to this industry, but this industry is known for mentors and mentees and those sort of relationships outside of the workplace or within the workplace where people really sort of click with someone and they help them along the way. And sometimes they don't even know, right? And also outside of that, and a personal thing, is there any individuals, any sort of groups, any platforms that have helped you along the way, right? That you potentially want to give a bit of a shout out to, and a thank you, a bit of recognition that's helped you get to this point. It's a nice opportunity to do that, right? If there are any.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I always do this every time, but my family helped me out a really big amount at university, because I was at the point where I didn't really know if cybersecurity was going to be the one for me. I felt like when I was doing security, I loved it,
Mm.
but I was like, the next 50 years, like, do I have to like do this for the next 50 years? Because I was just really scared, just like to get into the whole corporate thing.
Yeah.
And I went through this big panic. And then my parents kind of spoke to me and helped me to like just get through uni, and just, get through things. And without them, I think that would have been really difficult.
Mm.
So I always thank them first. But in terms of people at work, I've been really lucky to have two really good cybersecurity teams that I've worked in, and they've been super small. So in both the team I work in now, 5 or 6 people, and then the team I worked in before, 5 or 6 people again. So we're all really close to each other, still
Nice.
to this day. But if I was going to say specifically some people I've been speaking to recently who have really been helping me with my progression and things, would probably be Tom Baker, Ian Brown, Jay Patel, Tamlin Deacon. All of those people have really helped me. So I've had like one-to-one calls with them,
Amazing.
and essentially just asking the questions that at the time I had to ask, and them answering it in the most sometimes professional but also like mental help type
Mm.
way as well,
Mm.
because sometimes you're in the professional scene, but you also want to hear like, what do you really think about situations? And it's really important to get like both sides of things as well. So it's good to be able to get all their opinions on everything. And I hope that I could embody and kind of take forward all their advice and be like them in the future.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I didn't realize when I first came into this industry how much of that's gone on. It's probably because the industries I was in lacked lacked that sort of mindset, right? Unfortunately, leisure and hospitality is very different, right? But I
Right.
think I think what's really good to see in this industry is the opportunity for collaboration, and the appetite for that, because again, the external factors of this industry is pretty wild. And if you're on the good side, and it's awesome to see so many people, and the people you mentioned there, I know that they've been mentioned in other circles as well, for the support that they give to other people as well, right? And supporting people through professional stuff as well as personal stuff, I think is that empathy, the empathetic nature, and understanding of what people go through in this world is critical. So yeah, kudos to those guys and girls. I think it's awesome. Mate, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. I really appreciate it. I don't have any more questions, unless there's anything in particular you wanted to leave the audience with. I'll well, there's a thought there. Is there something you'd like to leave us with?
No, I mean, it's more just a passing comment, just to say that if you are a younger person looking to get into cybersecurity, I think it's really important to just go for it, because it is one of those fields which is constantly growing, and there is a shortage of people. And one thing I realized is that so many people have come into security with other skills. So you can essentially use any of the skills you have, come into security, learn about it, and then apply everything. And I think you'll have a really good time here.
No,